the flavor wave. I just
flavor.
I got the George Foreman grill. Like, hey, if you was an '80s icon or something, I got it out there for you, man. I'm waiting for Arnold Schwarzenegger's juicer to show up any day now.
Be there.
The Shadow Crew Podcast.
Yeah. Night Force is a subline.
I didn't know that. I probably won't get it then.
Yeah.
I just want Wolf Spider. All right, we're recording, so that's how podcasts work. Is you just hit record and then no one expects it.
That's correct.
So welcome to another Shadow Crew podcast of enjoyment and fun. And you're welcome. First of all, we're just going to put that out there right now. You're welcome, because this is going to be probably the best thing that tickles your ears all day. So you're welcome. That's it. So how you doing, fellas?
Good.
Doing good,
my ears are tickling.
Heck yeah, they are. I've said that many times in my life. Today, none at all, actually. Chris, I know you have a thing for cool vehicles. So I hear that maybe you're a little bit excited about our first topic.
I'm super excited. I'm so excited that every car I've ever owned, I've painted the red stripe from the 18 van on them. Just so you all know how damn excited I am.
Dang, man. You remember, speaking of 18 vans, you remember Universal Studios, Hollywood, where you could pick the van up? We were talking about that earlier.
Oh,
but
Dr. Britton and I can one up on that. We remember the A-Team stunt show that you could go and actually see.
Yeah.
At Universal Studios, you can have a whole day of fun.
And see how movies are made. Get to talk with Kit the car from Night Rider.
Hello.
And now you can see the new A-Team live action show with awesome explosions, incredible motorcycle crashes, and great car stunts.
Universal's new live attraction, based on the Stephen J. Cannell hit series, The A-Team live action show.
It's only part of the new magic at Universal Studios. Be there.
Here's the funny thing about the Universal Studio. At some point, they're like, this A-Team thing. The show is beyond. It's past its prime. No one remembers it. But yet, Waterworld's been there for 45 years. So I don't know what is happening there.
No one likes Waterworld.
No.
Like, you go there and everyone's like,
come thrill to an incredible new adventure, Waterworld Live. It's Southern California's only new attraction, and it's only at Universal Studios. We blow everything else out of the water.
This is boring.
Well, it went from the A-Team stunt show, and then, if I'm not mistaken, they went to Miami Vice.
You're in for another real blast with the Miami Vice Action Spectacular.
All right.
The Miami Vice Action Spectacular, exploding live at the Universal Studios tour.
How was it? Dynamite, pal.
And then they were
for
like,
a
well,
hot second.
There's water, so let's just do Waterworld.
Jeez. Yeah.
Mr.
T probably showed up and he was like, if I'm not part of this,
I pity
take this shit down.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Those actors were pretty damn good, man. Even as stunt doubles and everything, when you saw the stunt show, they were they were in it to win it, brother.
Did you know that Mr. T's necklaces were all one thing?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
How do I buy that?
I'm sure it's somewhere online, or sure Mr. T may be selling it at this moment.
Because I feel like that's. I feel like
it's like, you know how you see these Super Bowl rings show up at pawn shops from these legends.
Yeah.
I hope we don't see Mr. T's chains, man. Like bury the chains with Mr. T. Come on.
Look, man, I love Mr. T. I have a flavor oven thing right there, the flavor wave. I got the George Foreman grill. Like, hey, if you was an '80s icon or something, I got it out there for you, man. I'm waiting for Arnold Schwarzenegger's juicer to show up any day now.
Oh yeah, because Jack LaLanne died and he doesn't make them anymore.
No, he doesn't. So Arnold put his name on it.
And so let's be clear on this: are we keeping this 4 wheels?
4 wheels.
Like, it's got to be 4 wheels, and it's got to be a vehicle. This isn't like Okay.
Mhm.
So it just as long as it's like some version of a car, but it can't be a motorcycle.
Exactly.
And it can't be Airwolf.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll
So
save that for another podcast. We'll do the best air vehicles, and then we'll do the best two-wheel vehicles, because I'm sure there's a couple of them.
So if we did the best air vehicles, would Superman be okay with that?
Well, he does have the Supermobile.
Yeah. Well, what about Wonder Woman? Doesn't she have an invisible
plane?
Yeah.
invisible
so that's
jet,
eliminated. Yeah. And I know I talked about it earlier. Pee Wee Herman's bicycle, the ET bicycle. There's all these bicycles are eliminated. All the bicycles from Stranger Things.
Exactly.
So they're eliminated.
But again, that'll be another best of series. We'll do the best bikes. And
yes.
All right. Sure. So vehicles then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Mask.
Okay.
Just any vehicle from the cartoon Mask. It was great. I specifically liked Venom's semi.
Well, I remember that the Thunderhawk with the gold wing doors, because again, everything had gold wing doors on it and everything, from the DeLorean to everything else. And whenever I saw the Mask vehicle, and you're like, okay, but it could fly, I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. Sense.
Well, then they had the dirt buggy that when it jumped off, the front wheels just popped open in his wings.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was it was a French American TV show, so I'm pretty sure they were like treading the water carefully not to get anybody upset at Transformers.
Well, the funny thing too is, just to go on the Mask aspect, Hasbro re-upped the trademark on it, so they're saying there's a good chance that they're gonna probably relaunch the Mask line now.
I know, and that I'm trying to find vehicles before they do this, because I know it's going to be very expensive. I found a lot of almost all the vehicles I wanted for $5,000 on eBay, and that was in my cart.
Yeah.
That was in my cart. I was like, you know what? Welcome to the most expensive unboxing ever.
Well, if you want a lesser model of that, actually, the one guy that I think Julie and I really have a bunch of steam for, Ace at Ramen Toys. Now, it's not called the Thunderhawk. It's by a different name.
Yeah, he calls it the Makina Labs.
There you go.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. What's it? He calls it the Gull Wing.
There you go.
So stupid.
I'm gonna probably say something super controversial here, but all the Batmobiles. I know that's an outlandish suggestion in terms of top cars, but I'm gonna narrow it down to one car specifically, and I'm sure Mr. Storm can weigh in on this one. 1989 Batmobile from the original movie, I think takes the cake.
Oh, by I have that. I built that Lego set by far.
It's the coolest. It's the coolest.
Well, you know what? While I think Michael Keaton is great, and I love to see it in the last the Flash movie when they just did the reveal, but the one that I kind of thought was the most kind of blending of it was Dawn of Justice, was the Ben Affleck one. That one was a bad bill, and plus also cool. I thought that Batcave was a great Batcave too. So at the entrance in the lake. But that one kind of moved into a little bit of my favorite, man.
See, I got to go with the Tumbler. I love that, and it turns into the Bat Pod, just in case you screw it up.
The motorcycle that no one in the world could ever drive.
That's correct.
Except for that one stuntman.
Yeah, the one stuntman that was,
I mean, was that probably one of the most epic scenes is when he's on the cycle and then he hits the wall, it reverses as he's chasing the Joker. Like, I remember being in the movie at midnight and all the people in the theater were like, God damn, like that's Christopher Nolan right there.
It was.
So,
Dark Knight's a piece of work, man. It is probably one of the best Batman films ever to be done, man. It's iconic. All right, well, since we're going with that, I'm gonna say, like I said, the curse from Fast and Furious. I'm a big time old school car guy, and whenever the first time I was sitting in the theater, I saw the Fast and Furious, and he called the car the curse because obviously his father had died in it. So yes, that's actually a curse. But when he said, "Oh, I'm too scared to drive that car," I'm like, that's a car I can mess with, man.
Yeah, I like some of the iconic ones in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
The Supra, Paul
Yep.
Walker's Supra, the green one, and then Vin Diesel's RX-7, the red one.
Yep.
Those were cool. Those are cool. Like that was like the racing. That's before it became Vin Diesel flying out of helicopters
Exactly.
and doing I don't know what, but I don't know how he
Triple X
evolved.
movie.
But when it was actually like a street racing movie, those cars are cool.
I will tell you some of the more fun cars I think never get talked about is Cannonball Run.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because they had so much like there was so much like just and even some of the vehicles in the Mad Max, the new Mad Max movies, like those were like one of my favorite ones. One of the ones that I really enjoyed when I saw that movie in the theater was the one where the two guys are like swinging back and forth on the back with like the guitars and shit. It's just like, all right, I could get down with that.
Well, the price in California gas keeps going up like that. We're about to see it. Yeah, Mad Max the Interceptor.
Yeah,
great vehicle. A young Mel Gibson. Before any of the trouble.
Pursuit Special.
Great, man. It's a beautiful
1973 GT Ford Falcon was the car, and they modified it. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That I think that was like early on, like a really badass looking car, man.
It was.
That movie's so good.
Yeah, I also say Bullet, Steve McQueen's Mustang Fastback.
Oh yeah.
Every time I see that green color and I see a car cutting a corner, I keep thinking about Steve McQueen pumping, and then you can hear that rock crusher transmission going. Beautiful car, man. Beautiful car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you talked about the Charger, but you left out Blade's Charger.
I know.
Right?
Oh,
and also, possibly my favorite, although it's not very correct to like it anymore, the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. Because, we grew up in a time where one Christmas I got a slot car set that had the Confederate flag on the front of it, and it was the Dukes of Hazzard. They're being chased by the police, and those are your heroes.
Oh, it's not like it's as controversial as it is now. I remember I had that, and I remember my brother and I would be like, we would play like the General Lee, or we play the sheriff's office's cars, and I remember I think it was a Tyco set. Because you could jump them from track to track and everything.
That's what I had.
Well, what was the car that Boss Hogg had? That long white
Cadillac.
car.
I think Cadillac. Yeah, that's Cadillac.
Yes, sir. I remember
Cadillac.
having that as a car too. It came in a set.
I'm gonna say the name, and I hope that somebody in this group gets it. But Eagle 5.
Oh Jesus! I think I remember it, but I can't. Is it
just any wild guesses about what Eagle 5 was?
Eagle 5. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you got me stumped on this one, man. I've heard the name, I can't remember it.
I know. Yeah, you've definitely heard the name. Eagle 5 and John Candy. Does that help?
Oh, okay. Yeah, was that which movie was that?
Was that Uncle Buck?
No, that's Spaceballs. The flying RV.
Oh, yes. Yes. Chewy. Yeah. But no, what was his name? Not Chewy.
Barf.
What's his Barf. Yes.
Barf.
Barf and Pizza the Hut.
Yeah, that's what. Well, if we're gonna go down that route, you got to do the Ecto one, the Ectomobile from Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
iconic. And then, what about the Dumb and Dumber car that they drove around to look like a dog?
Cut? Yes. The mutt cuts?
Come on, I didn't include that.
Did I ever tell you I saw that in real life? I was working with somebody very closely with the Fairley brothers, and I got to see it because I had to do some stuff for web for them. And I lost my shit because that's one of my favorite movies. And I was like, I'm in the Mutt Cut van right now.
Funny.
This is fantastic.
Well, before it was controversial due to a sign, Microchip, the main man, built it for Frank Castle, the Punisher van. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we
I
haven't
know-
seen it in live action, really.
No.
It's just mostly in the comics.
Well, remember that there was the one movie that was done by which actor was it?
There wasn't a movie.
Thomas
You're talking
Jane.
about the short.
Thomas Jane.
The short,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which that
the
was
one that should have been
that
made.
version. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Pretty much. It was his apology short.
Yeah, he made that because he wanted to do it.
And it was like, okay, yeah, all right, that's how the movie should have been made. I know this is controversial. Dr. Brantley might have thoughts on this, but the '92 Ford Explorer from Jurassic Park, you just got to put that in there.
If you're gonna make a car that's going around dinosaurs, you should probably reinforce it a little bit more.
You
than
should probably get a
roof
dinosaur
that comes
car.
out, as soon as it's touched.
made of glass. So this one holds very like near and dear to my heart. I had the 74 Ranchero of this car, but it's the Gran Torino from Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
So I had this 1974 Ranchero, which was just the Gran Torino front end on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my outside of a like Mach 1 fastback or a Cobra fastback Mustang, the like 74 to like 76 Gran Torinos are fantastic.
Well,
they're not as good as Chris's Vendura van, but they're good.
I'm actually surprised that knowing Mr. Maddox that he didn't say the one car that I thought was going to come back, but I'm guessing I'm gonna have to throw
You
it
talking
in.
about Magnum PI?
No, I'm talking about the Mercury from Cobra.
Well, I can't bring up Cobra every podcast because I feel like I'm going to run out of topics. But yeah, I mean, that was a great car.
I remember my uncle when we watched that film and he saw that car roll, he like cried because he knew that was like one of the rarest cars to ever roll. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, why did you do that?
He literally got up mad and just walked out like watching the movie. He's like, "This doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, but have you ever gone back? So have you ever gone back into like older movies and watched all the cars they destroyed and been like, if you only knew what that would be worth right now, you wouldn't have gone through 12 of those cars for one scene.
Well, it's like every time you watch the Dukes of Hazzard and you see that car hit the ground and you see the buckles, you're like, well, that's the suspension torn on that.
And those cars are great to like beef up and turn into like great American muscle. So good. But I will say though, you're right. I should have said that. I apologize. My bad. But Magnum PI.
Yes. Iconic. And it doesn't matter which version of Magnum PI, the Ferrari's still the baddest.
Yeah, 308.
Yep. What about the 1969 Mustang Mach 1 Mr. John Wick's car?
Oh.
That's like one of the cars one of the cars I want.
I mean,
the only car cooler than that was Farrah Fawcett drove it in her. She's like Jill Monroe. What TV show was that? And why do I know
Charlie's
this?
Angels?
No, it wasn't Charlie's Angels. Was it?
That was the only thing Farrah Fawcett was in.
Yeah, I think it was.
Charlie's Angels. It was the Cobra 2 that she drove. Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't say one of our favorite actors that we can probably get on the show at one time, Nicolas Cage's Eleanor from 60 Seconds.
Yes, sir. Hey man, you know what? That's a good movie. It's cheesy.
It's a good movie.
Gone in 60 Seconds, right? Come on.
I love that movie. That movie's good.
It's a good movie. And the car is a badass car too, brother. They had some really nice cars in that movie.
Well, you can't be talking about these 70s cars without saying the Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh,
you talking about the Firebirds?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I think how many Firebirds did they sell after that damn movie?
All of them, because he had the T top, so that was like 74 to 76, black T top with the fucking off gold bird.
There's two men responsible for late 70s, early 80s for all sports car sales and everyone wearing a mustache, and that was Magnum PI and Burt Reynolds. Like they were responsible for sports cars and mustaches for about 8 years consecutively.
If my cousin Marcelo's watching, he had that Firebird.
There it
is. He had that Firebird, and it was like 1993, and he was so happy, and he was like, and he said, and the roof comes off and everything. He said, just like Burt Reynolds, and I was thinking like, okie dokie.
Chris, the only thing I'm going to argue with you on, Chris, is in the '80s. I think Tom Selleck owned the mustache. In Magnum PI, that was a beef.
I think that was Burt Reynolds,
beefy
brother.
mustache.
That was Burt Reynolds.
It was mustache central.
All right, that's our topic. That's our topic for the podcast.
Yeah. I will say also, and again, I'm surprised Mr. Chet Maddox did not throw this out. The 2007 Chevy Camaro yellow from Bumblebee, because after that movie. Yeah. Them Camaros were all over the road. Mm-hmm. Now, you may have an argument about like what Bumblebee was before that, but I prefer the Camaro version. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think?
It's better than the Volkswagen Bug, man.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
All the ones that were like getting rust, just like people swooped them up because they're like, I want to drive Bumblebee.
Exactly.
And no one made it look as good as they did in the movies. So,
well, also too in that movie too, wasn't he like the 70s version of that, and then he actually jumped into the brand new version? Because I remember I went to a dealership and they had that actual the brand new Camaro.
Well, no, just the movie Bumblebee, he was the 70s version.
Yeah,
there you go. And I remember like the salesman, and when I saw that car, I was like, that's a badass car.
So I guarantee you this car, I'm going to say, probably is not on any Google list, or it may be deep tracks. One of my favorite cars when I first saw it was Winston Wolfe's car in 1994 Pulp Fiction, the Acura NSX. Come on, man. Like
Mr. Wolfe.
Mr. Wolfe in the NSX. Like that was just like that tied that character all together when he had that car. So I'm gonna say that's one of my favorite cars of all time, by the way.
I can almost guarantee you cannot get that license plate in California. I can almost guarantee it.
No.
I don't know this car.
The Acura NSX? Come on, man.
No, what is that? I'm going to look it up real quick.
Oh,
what is
it's beautiful. It was, I think they brought up the NSX Roadster back, and I think Tony Stark drove it in one of the movies.
I think Iron Man.
But it wasn't the one that Winston Wolfe, the original version of it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find now. Trying to get one complete goes for crazy money.
I was gonna say Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Anybody remember that?
We went from Winston Wolfe to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's right. Hey, that's a flying car. You can do whatever you want, man.
Yeah, like I said, I can see him too. It's like that goes in the same category you have to put like Herbie in. Like I was like, what the heck, man?
Okay, if we're going that route, 1976 AMC Pacer Blue, the Mirthmobile from Wayne's World.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better. No, it doesn't get any better.
With the licorice that pulls from the light switch.
Oh yeah.
They squeezed like 10 dudes in that car, and it was like a 2-seater.
I will one up you though. In Wayne's World 2, the limo version of that car.
Yes. We haven't mentioned one. Kit. We didn't say Kit.
No.
Yet Knight Rider.
Mm-mm.
Shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
If we had to rank, because we're just throwing that, it's got to be in the top 3, right? Like,
cars. Most iconic cars on screen. Yeah, I think it was between that, the Batmobile,
and DeLorean.
Maybe the DeLorean.
Yeah. Well, it would be like DeLorean, like Ecto 1, right? Mm-hmm. There's some Batmobiles that would be in that, but yeah, like Ecto 1, DeLorean, Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about earlier before the cast all the Bond vehicles.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, we could go. I was just saying a lot of Aston Martins, but I did remember I think it was the first time it wasn't. Although, Dr. Brantley, you said, what was the one that you were talking about earlier?
The Lotus Esprit.
Okay, so that was the first time I think they went away from Aston Martin that I could recall.
I think
that
so.
was the first, yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah. But I think Pierce Brosnan, I think it was the BMW Z3. That was pretty epic too. That was like the first time it was BMW. But I think my favorite Bond car was the DB5 Aston Martin from Goldfinger, the white one.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's like a $500,000 car now.
Oh, yeah, you're not getting that. But I think I saw it in 2 films that I thought it worked out well for. When they re-brought it back in I think it was the second to last Bond film. But also I remember from Catch Me If You Can, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio goes out and purposely buys that car because he sees that, Bond, and he zoops around the corner in it. It's a great little car. It has great zip lines to it, and it's every time you see, that's Bond's car, and doesn't have the ejector seat in it.
Yeah. Well, what about the Bluesmobile from the Blues Brothers?
No, it makes it to the list. Belushi and Aykroyd, come on,
yes, sir.
You got to put them on the list.
The Munsters car, the Munster coach, and Dragula,
which was one of them was a coffin, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Dragula.
Yeah,
coffin,
and I think that's by wasn't by the Barrett's family, right?
Yeah,
that made all those. Yeah, he made a lot. He made a lot of those cars.
He made the original Batmobile, I think.
He did, yeah. And then he also did a lot of the cars from the '80s TV shows. So a lot of that was from the Barrett's family. It's great.
Which we didn't even really talk about, but like the TV show Batmobile was pretty rad.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did look it up because we were talking about like cars that were like amphibious cars, right? And it's from The Spy Who Loved Me, the Lotus Esprit, where it goes underwater and turns in. I'm like, dude, give me that car. Like, just give me that car because it was awesome. But I couldn't remember what it was. I had to look it up.
I mean, we can't forget about Lightning McQueen from Cars. I've seen people actually turn their car into Lightning McQueen.
Yes, I have.
And stuff on it, and it's kind of cool just driving down the street.
I've seen a lot of them at Route 66, a lot of diners and everything else. There's a lot of those, or the tow truck and everything else like that. Those are popping up all over the place. But yeah, it's a very nice looking car, man.
And with the racing cars, the Mach 1 from Speed Racer, and then Tom Cruise's iconic NASCAR in Days of Thunder as well. I mean, there's
Mellow Yellow.
Some Mellow Yellow. See, we remember it, right? Like it's one of those things, and that's why it's iconic.
This is kind of sad, but it is a real life car, and it was Ken Block's Mustang from Hoonigan.
Oh,
did you guys ever see that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Like it's called the Hoonicorn. And they built it's when Kim Block was doing Ford. That Mustang, unreal. Where I lived in Long Beach, the Hoonigan shop was like maybe a mile and a half away from my house, and you could just hear them every day. They're probably filming something, but it was like crazy. And then I remember seeing when they shut down like a big chunk of LA so that he could drift this Mustang across all of it. Like, it was insane. That has to be probably hands down. It's not iconic. It's not like a movie icon, but like if you want to see a car that's just like mind blowing, that Mustang is mind blowing.
What about the car from Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
No.
Oh, yeah.
The one that the valet dudes take it out and then it goes out the window. Yes, sir.
Uncle Rico's van from Napoleon Dynamite.
Mr. Bean's car.
Yes.
Tiny little thing.
The Pussy Wagon from Kill Bill Volume 1. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, there's just so many. We'll probably be all night naming cars.
Well, let's do the 3 more, and then we'll move on because we, like you said, Mr. Storm, we will
it'll be all night.
Move on. Are we missing any super big iconic ones. I'm thinking we got to be missing something. Fans, anybody listening, chime in the comments. I know we take a lot of heat for some of our best of series, so if we did miss some, I know we probably did. Please let us know. And I'm gonna say to anything Tony Stark has driven, right? I said I think he drove one of the NSXs, the new one, but anything he's driven, I think qualifies. I don't know if it's like super big, but that's clearly one that has been on top of my mind.
And I'm sure we missed a dozen of the Fast and Furious cars and everything, more beyond the Curse and the Supra and everything else, because there's at least probably been several hundred in that movie.
Hey, what about the Ninja Turtle van?
Oh, that is iconic.
Come on.
That is.
What was it called? The foot something? I forget what the actual name is called.
I think they just called it the Turtle Van, man.
Yeah, probably. I think you're right.
I think it's just called the Turtle Van.
Just straight Turtle Van.
And I think was Super 7, there's NECA. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them being reproduced right now, all over a bunch of different brands. So it is iconic.
I want to get the NECA one.
Yeah.
So who drove the van? Was it one of the turtles or was it
It was one of
Donatello.
Well,
no, he didn't have a license. This was all illegal, right?
He was a mutant. How is he going to go into DMV?
We did miss one, and I just found it, and I was like, "Oh shit, we did." The 6,000 sucks from RoboCop.
Oh, yeah, true.
AKA like what? Yes. How do we miss that? Because RoboCop's car was a Ford Taurus.
Yeah, just a regular police van. That scraped. I used to love that every time he used to drive up. He scraped the part of that. And I remember,
I always wanted a car that I could start with a middle finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's good. That's all good. Scooby Doo's van.
You know why Donatello was the one that was? You know why Donatello was the one that was driving all the time? Because he had a fucking stick at a fight. Everyone else had actual weapons. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So you wait in the car. We'll handle business. We got swords and sais and nunchucks, and you got a stick. Okay, just saying that. All right. Well, I think we did a pretty damn good job. Again, comment if we missed anything, but I think we nailed them all. And geez, some definitely some favorites there.
Oh yeah.
A lot of those have been turned into some really cool toys. I was talking with Mr. Chet Maddox earlier. We're about to unveil pretty shortly one of the different types of shows we'll have available on the Shadow Nose Network, and it'll be talking about retro toys and things. And one is the A-Team, the original A-Team van. So we're hunting for that original toy from '83. So hopefully we can get our hands around it. But speaking of toys, Hasbro 1027 event held today. And we talked about this several episodes ago, and it seems like we're back to some issues. And Mr. Storm, tell us about it.
Well, again, I'm the resident watch the Hasbro events live guy out of the group, but the 1027. First of all, the 1027 is not readily available on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube thing. You have to, get an invitation in order to check it out, which that makes absolutely no sense. But I do think they want to do that for all the Pulse members. Today it was like, even when it was they do an hour, they do the show, and then like an hour after the show, you have a chance for members only to purchase items, and then for the regular fans to purchase items. In the members only section, it was like Mace Windu came out. They had to set Mace Windu and a Clone Warrior for the Star Wars Black Series. Fantastic looking figure. 30 seconds, that was gone. There was this right as you were typing in and you went to hit cart, it automatically said it was gone. I said, okay. I said, all right. That's interesting that they didn't have. I know it's a fan exclusive event, but you would think they would understand that there's certain characters in the Star Wars universe is going to sell out a little bit more. Mostly any of the Jedis that have been on film or in the animated show, those are going to sell out. That just makes no sense. They're surplus.
Don't they already have a bunch of Mace Windu and Clone Trooper figures?
They did, but this is some kind of special 2-pack, and it looked fantastic, man. It was like it
It
was a
looked
great motion
good,
figure.
but I
Yeah,
mean, it's not like
I
they
don't
don't.
know if
It's
they've
not a
ever done
character
it.
they don't have.
I don't think there's not a lot of Mace Windu figures, and that with the release of like a comic series that they're trying, like I think there might be a Windu series in Disney's future. I mean, we know what happened with the last Sam Jackson character series, but I think Mace Windu is just one of those characters that people love collecting, just because I don't think there's an abundance of toys available.
Well, I think that Hasbro's running into this problem when they're doing their live events, and it's like, look, the whole reason why that you're a publicly traded company is to sell merchandise to people. But when you make it so exclusive where that happens, you lose a great a fanfare. And I'm looking at, like, it's like everything from every time you log into the system, even if your information's pre-up, you're constantly putting it back in. And I think they do this to maybe try to stop bots or maybe some of these scalpers, but they're getting it anyway. So obviously that routine's not working. I just think it stops some of the average fans that want to get in. There's certain people, especially I know with the Target exclusives and stuff like that Target has such a bad system in it as well that people were like, well, I'm just not going to collect that because there's so much of a hassle from it. And I think that's what's happening with Hasbro whenever they do these events. It's like, look, they're making great products. They're doing a great job. I think the HasLabs are the only things that kind of go without problems because, you're basically, it's the fan demand. It's like they can't sell that many items unless the fans actually put it in. So there's a little bit of a difference. But when you actually have a major event that you're doing on a Friday, it's like you need to have, like, certain items. You knew the Mace Windu stuff was gonna sell out instantaneously. There was a couple of Transformers items. One that looked like it was very limited. It looked like they didn't put any kind of tooling or anything into it. And then I think there was one of his Stranger Things kind of mixture kind of version of one that sold out instantaneously, just due to the combination of the franchise. None of the GI Joe stuff so far, because they revealed the Vamp Jeep, that hasn't sold out at the moment. But we'll see how that was. Also, I think was one of the most expensive items. I think it was like $99 compared to everything else being a little bit under that. But this is going to show why. Also, our next point of talking is that the third quarter earnings came out between between Mattel and Hasbro, and while due to the success of Barbie and the availability of getting their products, everything except for that Jurassic Park gate. Can't check out the Jurassic Park actual video that we have up. But Mattel did great. Their numbers were up. They had an excellent third quarter. Hasbro had a not so good third quarter, and their sales were down. Now, a lot of it, I'm thinking, is due to the windowless packaging, obviously, because Mattel is still putting out the same packaging for He-Man and all across their line and Barbie, and they don't care about the environment. They care about profits. And you look at with Hasbro. Now I saw the GI Joe Vamp did have for the first time the back to the plastic packaging. So they had the character like in the 80s. It just had the character clutch and a plastic point on the cover that you could see him and see the character. They did a photo of the actual vehicle itself, but I thought that they're trying to twist it back, and they should. Transformers, get it back to the plastic. Let people see what they're purchasing. Just don't fall in there. But I think that Hasbro's going in the wrong direction, and I think their work is quality. But I think Mattel's just out there trying to make a profit right now, and it's how you do business.
Do you think? And I know we talked about this previously, and I know Chet, you weighed in on this subject when it comes to the Hasbro, the Pulse, all the exclusives. Do you feel like any real fans can get their hands on it now? Like it feels like it's just resale game. Like unless you're so lucky and you got crazy internet and you got it, you happen to luck out. You feel like those things. I go on eBay and I see those things marked up like 5x. It's just like it's not for the fans anymore.
The way I know it's not for the fans is Giant Man funded on HasLab.
I didn't think that was going to fund.
And it didn't just fund, it like went over.
Mm-hmm.
They needed 10,000 and it got 13,000. Like that's no one knows Giant Man. Like
that was the last day that it jumped like that too, though. And I think a lot of that's international sales that they're adding in. So because they did that with the last several HasLabs, it wasn't going to make it, and then they started dropping the international sales, and then it slowly creeps over limits higher than the actual numbers.
I think what it is like, I just don't think as a fan you can like really get it unless you're investing in some shady bots yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like realistically, like I'll just explain it to everybody out there because I had to deal with it. The bots are basically what come from like the sneaker community for like Jordans and shoes and stuff like that. And all it does is it sits there and it's like a code that you just have running on your computer that you input all of your credit card and shipping information, and it just hits the website and it hits it on the back end. So while you're sitting there like reloading the front end trying to see if it's available, the bots purchase it from the back end of the website, and that's why it gets sold out so fast. Because if you put your credit card information, the shipping information in, the bot can fill that shit out way faster than you can, and you can put in the quantity that you want it to buy. I could show you guys the script, and you say I want 3 of them from this website. It fills in the credit card number, does everything, and then purchase it, and then you get it at your house. That's literally what's happening. And so like it's almost become like impossible because it's just people want to load an eBay store at 5x of whatever the cost is. like Alex, I know you got the Cobra His tank, right?
I did.
And they were what was it? It was like you could only get like 2, right? Something like that.
I think the His tank was a limit of 5, I think.
Yeah, 5. So these bots you could put in like I want 5 on this name, and then you do 5 on the other name, and so within 30 seconds they purchase 10, and you're trying to purchase 1. So
I'm just picturing like C-3PO going, Master Skywalker, I've secured 5 His tanks, like a droid factory, just buying up that Hasbro exclusives. It's so sad, man.
Look, I'm not gonna shit on anybody that has a the eBay store or anything like that, because there's some people out there that's really legitimately doing it, and they're actually going to like thrift shops, and they're actually legitimately selling.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with anybody doing that.
But there's the guys out there that like purchase these items and they quadruple it by the time you even get a chance to take a look at it. And it's astronomical. It's like I normally when I buy things, I buy it just for myself, and it's always to leave something behind for someone else. It's not so much at the point that I need to make a profit off of this from someone. It's more or less, look, I'm just going to get the quality that I need. I don't need 16 soldiers or anything else like that. I don't pick a store clean. If it's like, there's 10 on the shelf, I'll take 1. And it's like, but there's certain guys out there that I've seen in the Targets and the Walmarts and online that'll take like 15 of them and troop build. And it's like, you wondering why the community, and there's so much toxicity that's going through it right now. It's because like, man, it's like, did you really need it? Did you think of only yourself? And with that, I've seen that with G.I. Joe Classifieds, especially in the early days, where they were like selling figures for like $300-400 in the beginning. It was crazy. And so, I think the bots have heard a lot of things, and I know that they've tried to work on that through Hasbro and Mattel, but I do think that there's certain people that are going online and be like, well, I know I'm not going to get this already from them. And that's not what you want a customer to have.
Well, if there's,
I mean, that's my mindset.
If there's already that much, people wanting it, why don't they just make more?
Because then if they have a mishap, like we thought, like, see, the reason why they did the Giant Man as a HasLab is because they could have put a $199 giant figure, nothing really else that came with them. At least when you saw like Galactus and you saw the Sentinel, there were certain tiers and certain characters, and like, okay, this made sense. Galactus came with his heralds. The Sentinel came with additional parts and it lit up. Giant Man's just a giant figure they charge $199 for. That's going to sit on a shelf just like those Captain America shields sat on every shelf now. And now you see discounted at Ollie's. And now people are like $99 for a shield, or I can get it for $29.
Oh, I've seen what's her name? What's the Captain
Agent
America's?
Carter?
I've seen Agent Carter's shields at Target for like 50% off. I'm like, who's buying that?
Yeah, you can't give those away now, man. You might as well drop them down to 2 cents.
Yeah,
because that's the worst one. And plus, also, Captain America, his whole term is Captain America. You put a British flag on it.
I know. Well, what's the? How long do you think before the Marvel's movie toys hit Ollie's? Do you think 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
As soon as they come out,
I think it's already
straight to him.
there.
Which, by the way, we talked about this. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Mayhem toys are already gone. They've already off-sold that to somebody.
Oh, they'll
else.
be at Ross. Shadowe will find. Really
I already started seeing play sets and stuff at Ross, and I was like, already here we are. No,
by the way, Shadowe finding a cool Star Wars toy
I saw that
at Ross. That's kind of cool. That's a cool figure.
You know what, man? When he's out there hunting and he's going through, and it's the thing that I think everyone doesn't get to see other than us behind the scenes, is that, man, he goes hard for those hunts, man. He'll go to 10 or 12. He'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go over here to Westminster. I'm gonna go over here. Like, Jesus Christ, brother, for $6.99, chill out.
Yeah.
And those shelves look like something exploded.
Oh man, let me tell you something. Ross's shelves, there are I've seen some back east, and when you look at when Chet shows me photos of Ollie's and everything, I'm like, my God, that's so organized. It's so nice. Ross is like someone threw up toys on a shelf.
It's so horrible.
It's kind of cool for digging and finding though. If it was organized, it wouldn't be as cool. You wouldn't have to lift 7 different Jurassic Park figures to find the one cool Star Wars figure.
No, that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff is gonna definitely be popping up soon.
I'll probably pick up some stuff when it hits the I wasn't a fan of buying that stuff anyway, but if I can get a crazy discount, give it to my daughter, I will. Speaking of bad movies and good movies, the Marvels coming out. Who's actually going to volunteer to watch that amongst this group? Because we need some. Okay,
Chet, thank God, thank you,
sir. Thank you.
I give you credit for that one.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I might have to send you some money for your ticket.
Well, you know what the thing about Chet is, he's probably getting it delivered to him so he can watch on his 120-inch TV.
Look,
so you're not actually going to the movies.
In my theater. I'm not going to the theater, so I'll have that shit in my living room.
Yeah. But what I'm actually excited about, you all sent the article, Highlander.
Yes.
I think everyone has their own thoughts on the Highlander series, and there's been good stuff, movies. There's been some interesting things. What do you all think about Highlander? Because Henry Cavill attached. I like him, man. I know he gets a lot of shit sometimes. Like him.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, I think he was a cool Superman. Just bad writing, bad movies. You plug him into a Superman character where somebody knows what they're doing. I think it's great. And then I like The Witcher. The first season was good, and then obviously bad writing again, got stuck, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool if they do it right. And it looks like the John Wick guy is going to be at the helm, which is super promising. But did you all like the Highlander stuff? Because I thought the early stuff was really cool.
Well, the first movie,
the first movie,
and I did like the Highlander television show. I thought that was pretty good. The show, not when they went into the films, but
who was the actor in the TV show?
Adrian Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah, but I thought that was actually, the TV show was a lot better than after I think there were 3 out of 4. No, I think there was 5 other movies.
Yeah,
I remember there was a couple of them that popped up, but
there should have been only one. But
they say so. It's right there. We should have stopped.
Yeah. I know.
Shit's literally in what he says. So
because I went and saw Highlander 2: The Quickening in a theater.
No.
Oh, that's a waste of money.
I can tell you how bad that movie was. I saw it on Laserdisc, bro. But no, Henry Cavill. Look, I think he's this generation's Superman. I thought his job was fantastic, no matter what film he was in, whether it was some of the bad DC films when he was Superman in it. He was still the best thing of it. I loved him in the Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. He was one step better than everyone else in the movie. I thought Witcher. I thought they just didn't use enough of his actual, because the man can act, and he's was relinquished to 1 and 2 lines every now and then. So I didn't think that helped his whole overall acting. It seemed like they hindered that. But as far as Highlander, like, look, he's got the built. If it's going to be action packed, it's from the John Wick guy. You know those sword fights are going to be absolutely crazy. Henry Cavill is your, but this man knows how to take franchises and actually build them even better. I think they picked the right choice.
Like, we can't forget that he is actually a fan of the shit he does.
Yes, yeah,
and that's why he walked away from Witcher. He's like, this is not to this. This is not like like this is going too far away from the source material. I'm out of here.
I mean, you can watch him on YouTube building a PC. Like, the guy's not. He's like,
he plays Warhammer. You know what I mean?
He wants to be in that Warhammer film too.
I know. Well, dude, if there's anybody that you want, is the guy that actually plays it and like paints the figures and like. Chad and I tried to get into that, man, and then COVID hit. And,
our Warhammer story is a real quick one, and I'll explain it because I'm pissed. Yeah. We were looking at it. And we were like,
anybody here like you all like got into that? It was like
no.
Such.
Okay. So Chris and I were like, you know what? Let's get into Warhammer, because we were like, this is like peak board game development, like something to do. So we met up. What was the place called?
One of the games, Game Workshop.
Game Workshop. So we met up at Game Workshop.
That's where all the malls had those at those times.
And so we were like, let's just look. And so we were talking to the dude, and we were pumped, and they had the table there, and we're like, oh, okay, awesome. And we were like, how do you paint these? And he gave us like a run, and we painted them. And then we realized that we could buy a pack that had like both factions. So Chris could be one, I could be the other, and then we could play. And we were pumped. We were all in on this shit. I mean, it was like $130. It's not a lot for, like, we split it, whatever, but we were all in, and we got them. We got back. I think we met like one other time. We're like going over the painting and talking about that shit. And then we went to go play, and we were outside, and we were like, wait, is everything like shutting down? And it was literally at the very start of COVID, and it was just like, nope. And we have not touched them since.
That was our Warhammer journey.
That was our Warhammer journey experience, and I'm still bitter about it because I wanted to get into that game, but it's like,
well, keep him in mid condition, because after Highlander, Henry Cavill's going to tackle that.
Who's the director? I get it. What's the director's name for John Wick? But he's also doing the John Wick spinoff.
Oh, the ballerina.
I don't think he had a lot to do with that Continental series, which wasn't that great. I don't know if you all watched it, but I did.
I haven't yet to watch it because I saw it and it didn't look that good.
No, I mean there's elements of it, but it's definitely not at the caliber.
Mm-hmm.
But there's rumors that he's writing John Wick 5. And I read that he's got 5, 6, 7, and 8 like penciled out, but he hasn't written it yet. But that he has to just present it, and like Keanu would be in. But now they're doing this ballerina, which is like a revenge story with a female lead, and it's the girl from Bond film. What's her name?
Ana de Armas.
Yes, which is kind of cool. What do you what do you think? Like, do you think like, hey, just stick to John Wick? Apparently, he's going to be in it. Ian McShane's going to be in it, so it's in the universe and it'll be a film. I think it'd be kind of cool if it's a very Kill Bill, violent. The way it like, I trust this writer director, but what do you all think?
Well, yeah, up until I saw the Continental, I was thinking all John Wick was going to be good John Wick, and actually, I guess that's not the case. I'm thinking that, if you're going to do a film series, I thought the Continental would have worked. When I saw the trailers, I was like, I don't think this is going to work on television. But the ballerina, I do think is going to work. And if they do it as a counterpart to John Wick instead of Like, I think at one time Fast and Furious, they were like, well, let's do an all female Fast and Furious movie. I was like, oh, that's not going to work out too well. I think if they just make it its own entity within the universe, another great character, I think it's going to work. I think it's got the room to be a big franchise, and I think that the problem, like with the Marvels, is there's not a lot of male audience members that will go to the Marvels. I don't think that's going to be a problem with the ballerina. I think that the John Wick fans, because they haven't gotten the sour taste in their mouth like Marvel has, I think you will get a predominant audience. I think you might be looking at another Sigourney Weaver like icon being built right now.
Yeah, I mean, if it's based on John Wick and they call it ballerina, I mean, that's a badass title. Like, I don't know why, but if you just picture that in the John Wick universe, it's like, I mean, it's a good title.
As long as her backstory is like she was a trained ballerina and like does some cool, like almost Jim Cotta from, I know you brought it up prior, from what's the
Equilibrium?
It'd be kind of cool if there was some cool shots like that. And she was like, trained as a dancer, then somehow her journey, she's a hitman. There's got to be something like that. Why the hell is she called a ballerina? But I'm all in.
Well, yeah, as long as they don't try and just make it exactly like John Wick, it needs to be its own thing, have different type of weapons and fight scenes, because she's not John Wick, she is a ballerina. It should be something a little more sleek and, sort of
it's like I'm going to go watch softball, not baseball. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also too, didn't they kind of show a little bit of, like, I guess it wasn't kind of origins, but the kind of whole ballerina kind of thing in the third movie, right?
Yeah. He goes. Angelica Houston is running it.
Exactly.
She's in it. She's in this movie.
Yeah.
So they're tying that in, which is cool because there's this mini universe now. Which is, outside of Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, he makes that damn movie. Like, he's the coolest character. I love Ian McShane all the way when he's in Deadwood and all the way through. Like, I hope he continues. I think he's like the outside of Keanu. If he ever departs, I'd have question marks about the John Wick franchise for sure.
Absolutely.
Were you all heartbroken to hear the news about the DC Comics big boss resigning? I don't know if you all needed a moment to process. I know you were all huge fans. We not getting anybody from DC on a damn show. Well, maybe because maybe we're saying things.
Maybe.
No, I mean because like Alex and I we were talking about it in the chat. Like, to get rid of Vertigo, like, such a stupid move. Like, you had so many things you could test on the Vertigo name that if they flopped were still fantastic. You couldn't do it on DC. They did it on Vertigo, and it was just like Vertigo. In my opinion, Vertigo was like the Lionsgate of the comic book industry, because everyone knows there was like a point in time where Lionsgate just picked up movies that were like garbage, no one wanted to do, but they made them great, and now Lionsgate is an actual player in the game, and Vertigo was going that way. Vertigo had a lot of comics that you just couldn't get on DC, but then you knew it was DC, so it was like a testing ground. And it's just they just like under this person's like oversight got rid of so many impactful things, I think, for DC Comics, that is just mind blowing that she was even there that long, in my opinion, because I never understood the removal of DC or of Vertigo. Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
And there wasn't like there was any legendary comics on Vertigo, like Hellblazer and Sandman and
nothing good.
Preacher, nothing great. It
was nothing good.
It's good. I deleted it.
Yeah, those were all like minimum. What, maybe if we're lucky, like 15 trades. So there was no good anything on that.
Why the Last Man, DMZ. I mean, the list, it's a terrible list of books. So
Preacher will never get made into a TV show, none of that. So
I think that that was like, one, I don't understand why they bring someone in that doesn't really understand the business as well and see trends. And the one absolute thing that I think that worked well for Vertigo was the testing ground, like Jet and I was talking in the point. But, look, Sean Gordon Murphy, who is a huge star now, he started off doing like a couple of Vertigo books. And I remember the Hellblazer book that he did that was fantastic. And they were tests, you would not have Sandman with Neil Gaiman. You would not have this stuff, but to have the foresight, because I think it was like maybe due to it being more mature and they wanted to maybe, I guess,
rein it into, the whole concept was it's too edgy for comics. It's shut up.
That's the reason why they're great comics, though.
Yeah, like I don't know if anyone ever got into it, but the Fable series.
I did read the Fable series, yes.
Yeah,
great.
Like,
another really strong one on Vertigo.
I mean, that shit was never going to get popular on Vertigo either.
Yeah, well,
I don't think you could have all of those. Which, by the way, they have all of those at Ollie's.
Yeah. Now, for us to slaughter somebody also too, we also got to show the positive, because this is the one thing that while she did kill Vertigo, she actually did raise the growth of the young adults line and the kids' graphic novels, and she also moved everything into the webtoons and more prestigious format graphic novels. So there's some, and but now we don't know if those were generally her thoughts or the team that she had built around her. Because a lot of times, for all the bad things are blamed on the boss, all the good things are actually taken and put onto the boss. So, but I just thought that, DC needs to have, back in the days, which love him or hate him, he did a great job running Marvel, Jim Shooter, or you need a Tom DeFalco, or you need classic editors. And I think that and classic people to run it. And while I think the earlier DC regime needed a little work, I think now it's a time and opportunity. I pray they don't give it to James Gunn, because I don't think that's going to be a wise decision. But you have to get somebody in that's mind-wise thinking, what's going to drive, how are we going to promote the movies that we have and comics at the same time, the way manga does it, because they seem to have their formula down. They're from merchandising to television to books. They can have a line that exploits all of it. But in America, for some strange reason, we think of comics as just a testing ground, and they're a forethought, even though this is still a $1 billion business total. But you have the opportunity to test stories here before you spend 120 or $200 million on a film. You would think they would use a little bit more common sense on that. So hopefully, maybe DC. I heard there's a guy named Bruce Campbell that's supposed to be taking over, and not the Evil Dead actor, which I saw that in an article where it was like, well, Deadline made a mistake of linking Bruce Campbell's image, and that's not the actual person. That's the actor. But we'll see if they're going to get and listen to some ideas and try to, bring. I would love to see Vertical come back, man. I think it needs to come back, to be honest with you.
Well, if it came back, there's so much recognition on what books came from Vertigo that it would. I don't think that they could miss. It would definitely become a contender for Boom Studios, Black Mass. So you would have another player in the game. But I mean, you can sit here and name off how many successful runs came from Vertigo, right? It's
what they should do is take the Vertigo line, reimagine it, reimagine inside joke, and make it for aspiring artists and creators, like a very independent line that can funnel projects, new concepts up to Warner Brothers. So you're gearing it towards hey, you don't want use it as a very super independent new stuff, give new writers a chance. And then from there, you may pull a couple things out there that like feed the funnel of new ideas, because again, that's where Hollywood is struggling. So just reinvent it, like that's all you need to do. And hopefully maybe this new chief comes in and thinks about that. But I think, I think whether it be next week or the following week, we had some internal discussions.
Yeah.
I think devoting a good portion of a cast to like where comics stand today, and where Hollywood plucks their ideas from, and what's the future of that? What's the future of aspiring artists and writers? Us being involved in the industry for many years in different forms and facets, definitely love to get into that in a future episode.
Well, it's been a long time since there's been anything that really crossed over to the mainstream. Like I'm thinking back to like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. Like regular people were reading those books. I haven't seen anyone.
You know what? Yeah, I think maybe Robert Kirkman and The Walking Dead kind of might have had the last kind of phenomenon kind of thing where regular people were going in due to the anticipation of that series and going in. So I think
you talking about a series that's actively being published at the time that the movie or TV series comes out,
or just anything that just
brought mainstream people back over into it. I think The Walking Dead was probably the last, maybe Invincible, because I know a lot of people like that actual Invincible cartoon. Maybe that book is not concurrent though, which is the problem. But I do think that maybe you'll have more people going into the shops.
Or
but it's too late. They make these movies or TV shows too late in the series.
Yes.
Like Constantine came out, like Hellblazer was already too deep into its run. Like Why the Last Man was terrible. That came out, and like
that was
people
terrible.
Like Preacher like came out, and like I think that run was done right, like long before with like Garth Ennis. Like there's just a lot of stuff they wait too long. I don't know if like some executive sees it like so long and goes, oh great, like Sandman, how long did it take for that to actually be a series?
35 years.
Like what are we talking about here? So it's like that's what I'm saying, like, and mixed feelings on that. But I'm just saying like something should be a line where within a few years, if it's good enough, can translate and it's still hot and active, and not like these things that have been sitting there for a long time. Good stories, but why does it take so damn long? Like what are we waiting for?
So there's there's a comic that's, I think, as a full series, and I believe the series is done. He might be doing another one. It's on Image Comics, but it's 5 Ghosts of Fabian Gray. And it's a very, very fantastic comic. And he got apparently was in talks like with Netflix or somebody to do run like a few pilot episodes of the comic, and this would have made like it would have made for a really good like series on Netflix or Hulu or something, right? And all it was just like talks, and then he put off like writing another like run of the comics to extend it, and then it just kind of like fell off. And so like now we're sitting on this one where it has potential to be really good for TV, but just they it almost feels like they buy the rights to it and then shelf it until they're ready, or just forget about it.
Well, it's like, Dr. Brentley and I think also Mr. Dawkins can actually speak about this, is there's a lot of development hell that goes through Hollywood. And just when you can start a project and you think it's got the momentum, and they're telling you, hey man, like I think we're going to film it next year. And then it turns 7 years later. And then there's another executive like, well, I don't know, we're going to revise it. And there's another, maybe let's try another script. And, sometimes these ideas are sitting around for 10 or 15 years before they even get a shot to be on. So, it just depends. It's not so much if you thought the creators, they would most definitely want to jump and get it done. But it's the studios that basically hold up a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of big studios, another chief comes out from Pixar and basically openly says that they've gone away from their storytelling roots. And they're trying to get back with their core audience, and some films haven't done as well as they'd hoped. I know we've talked about this on previous podcasts about Pixar. I mean, my first thought is duh. Like, you think it took you how many before you realize that, like they're not making as much money like the Toy Stories and the really good storytelling. Like, what do you all think? Because I'm still a Pixar fan, but clearly some of the recent stuff just is not at the level of the classic characters and stories of the past.
Yeah, I mean, I judge a lot of Pixar films against Up. And I think Up is probably one of my favorite Pixar films. And I, like even in their most iconic brand, Toy Story, right? Like you have Toy Story 1, which to be completely transparent in this podcast, I will get flack for this, but I've never been a Toy Story fan.
Oh man.
But I can appreciate Toy Story 1, but you can even see how Toy Story 1, it goes from like Toy Story 1, where it felt like Pixar had something to prove, to like Toy Story 12 or whatever it is now, where it's just kind of like, I think there's a lot of potential. I was happy to hear this because, they did Soul and then they did Elemental. And I did see Elemental
I
or
saw
Elements
Elemental.
or whatever. I saw that in the theater, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best, but it's also like it was pretty good. It had potential to bring you back into like what Pixar was like, in my opinion, but it's definitely not as good as Pixar can do, and that's a bar they set themselves up for. So yeah.
Well,
it's the characters. Like, there's a missing character elements. Like, my daughter loves Elemental. She's
exactly.
3, but the character, like, I don't know the characters. Like, she don't wear the toy. Like, that's what's missing. Is like these iconic characters. Soul, like, who's icon? Like, it's like these things. Like, that's where they need to get back to.
Well, they're missing number one, which I know it's going to be controversial, but the original Pixar, we won't mention them by name because he's been excluded, but those were traditional animators. They were back in the days of 2D, and they understood what it took. They knew story, structure, and when you remove that with a bunch of newer individuals that come in that don't understand story and structure as well, and also, let's be honest, they've forced on some of their ideologies into the films when it's like it's just a film, just
stay out of it.
And I think you have to keep it neutral. You have to do number one, the job, like Dr. Brentley and I talk about this all the time. Whenever we sit in a meeting, they ask, what's the job of a writer, director, producer? What's their job in Hollywood? Their job is to make sure that you make a movie that's profitable. That's your number one job. It's not your job to tell this grand scheme story and everything. It's like, is this product going to be profitable? And if it's a subject matter that's not profitable, you shouldn't do it. And what they've been doing is like Soul. Look, Jamie Foxx is an immensely talented person. I have no clue what that movie was about. And there's no entertainment or I think nostalgia factor in it. But then when you look at the earlier Pixar work, you look at like Wall-E, and obviously, like I said, Up is also one of my favorite movies. And you look at some of the early day work that they did, it had meaning. The characters had meaning. You understood it. Now it's like, I saw Elemental, and my nieces and nephews are all extremely younger. They watched it, and I hadn't watched it in the theater. I was watching on Disney Plus with them, and I thought, this is actually a pretty good movie. This felt a little bit like the old Pixar films, but the Pixar chief said, well, we had conditioned everyone to think of the movies as you're looking at it from the pandemic. Everything's going to Disney Plus. That's an excuse. A good film will get people. Because Super Mario Brothers crushed it in the theaters.
Everywhere.
And so the difference between it is that Super Mario Bros. Was entertaining from the minute you turned it on to the end, and there was no ideology. There was none of the other stuff in it. Just a movie.
All they cared about was like, how do we tell the story of Mario that everybody knows?
Exactly.
And I don't think that very many studios could have done what they did, especially with all the backlash that people were getting. Like, why is this Mario Brothers movie making so much money and it's got Chris Pratt in it? And he said one thing one time in 2003, and it's just like no one cared.
Why
I
is
watched
Mario not being played by an Italian American
person? I'm
It's
like,
like what?
Yeah.
Like, where are you supposed to
cartoon.
come up and just dig that out of? Like, it's like, look, you get the best actor, you get the best director, you get the best writer to do the best work. But yet, it had a very good story. And look, Illumination is murdering Pixar. I most of the Illumination films, from the Despicable Me's to the Grinch to, like, they are their early days. Maybe I remember the Lorax. Maybe they had to work on a couple of them, but they've hit their stride with the Minion films, and it's just they tell good stories. And like, even with the Minions, they have characters that don't even speak, and like, there's dialogue being presented because it's classic animation. So I think Pixar does need to get back to just making films, and just concentrating on, is the story good, is this going to be something that's going to entertain 10 down, and is it going to keep the family, the adults that have to sit through that, entertained as well? They're just not doing that, man.
But so then I guess, like, the quick question is, like, what do they do to get back to that point?
Start actually paying attention to what their audience has been telling them for the last 4 or 5 movies.
Probably
just
start
write
with
a story.
Yeah, write a story that you think is boring, because that's the one everyone's gonna like.
Mm-hmm. Because I can tell you, Up, Up had people in tears at the end of that movie. It's a heartfelt. Your heart
beginning of that
wrenches.
movie.
Yeah, well, the beginning and the end. Look, every time I see that little house on top of that little waterfall, it breaks my heart, because it has a nostalgia factor that you remember. And Wall-E and Toy Story and all these ones. The newer films don't have nostalgic factors.
If you're struggling like Disney, the easiest thing to do is spend $10 billion and buy the Shrek franchise, which they did. So, when in doubt, buy characters that are, not made by you.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a lot of work to do. So I'm hoping, for the sake of Pixar, as a big fan, that they turn it around. I do.
I do. They just need to get in a room and watch all their original films and be like, that's what we need to hit. We need to make it feel like that when you're watching it. And if you're watching the storyboard and you don't feel it, scrap the pile of shit and start over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's going to be a moving movie if you're storyboarding it and people can already feel like the story, right? It's the same concept of like game design. You don't design a game with all the graphics first, because then people are focused on that, right? It's got to be led with the story. And like, I honestly think if you just said like, cool, you're the next group of people to create the next Pixar, go watch all these movies, right? You could have them watch Up, you could have them watch Wall-E, you could have them watch the original Toy Story, and then just have them come out of the room and then be like, see, you get it? Now write a story.
Well, maybe bring in some of the old mentors, some of the older animators that are still around, that people say, as they kind of push them off into retirement, the guys through the 80s and 90s that were actually knowing how to tell stories through an illustrated format. Bring those guys in and do a mentorship program and get them to understand, because I think a lot of times there's a lot of guys that are younger, that have a belief that I know everything and I'm going to do it this way. And I think that maybe bringing them back into a mentorship and make it more collaborative as an entire structure may help them.
Well, it was good conversations tonight. I think there's one thing that I've taken away from all of this is I will not buy Hasbro or HasLab stuff. I'll wait to spend 10 times the amount of money on eBay to buy it from a reseller. Yeah. So we gotta do a shout out to our sponsor, Mr. Storm.
Always. Again, like I said, we're talking about the problems that you're having with Hasbro Pulse. You're mad that Jurassic Park gates need to go through, and you just can't find that place that's going to give you the absolute care and attentiveness that your toy collecting hobby needs to be. Well, then you need to go down to Wilmington, California. You need to go to Toys versus Games, our sponsor, and has been our sponsor for several shows. They are a mom and pop store. They care about the community. I just saw just last week that they did a huge video game outside swap meet where they had a whole bunch of old gaming systems and games, and it was just a huge, like, nice event that they put on. And I was like, wow, this is extremely nice. This is kind of cool. You get to build a community, you build loyalty, and people will come back. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the mom and pop stores. If you're running into the Targets, the Walmarts, just find that little small store or that comic book store that is selling those items in, and give those, because those people are hurting right now, and we want to keep those places around. We don't want to see just corporate places around. So, they're on Instagram, Toys versus Games. A beautiful store. It's Shadowe's preferred store. You may go in there, you may see him in there haggling or bartering for some toys somewhere. So, and that's an interesting experience. So, check them out. We thank them for sponsoring the Shadow Crew podcast.
Awesome. Well, quick updates on the channel. We got some new stuff happening. A new retrospect is on the Shadow Knows Network. So if you haven't checked it out, Dr. Brantley and Mr. Storm, I love the series. And I encourage you all as they dive into. So are we doing horror retrospectives? What's the next episode after this? Is Dracula on the list?
See, I run my mouth enough. Dr. Brentley can do this part.
We have Frankenstein up next.
Nice.
And Dracula. Hopefully it'll be right after Halloween.
Love it. Love it. Check it out on the channel. New unbox with Chet Maddox. Unboxing the Super 7 Thundercats. Looking forward to that as well. And as always, we've got some other stuff. Shadow videos. His latest find in a Ross. More to come. Other stuff that are in the works. So we appreciate you all tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, share. It helps us grow the network, and we always appreciate the follow, the subscription, and the listen. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap up tonight.
Yeah, I know Mr. Maddox is going to be unboxing Pseudolly, his tank coming soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's I will be doing a his tank. The Thundercats one is there. The San Diego Comic-Con Alpha exclusive is there. Just got our hands on all 4 of the Batman animated figures. Those are all coming. Okay. So a lot of unboxings. I'm gonna be honest, still looking for that Rebox, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is, but I am definitely going to rebox something very soon.
You know what? I'm gonna find something to send it to you for reboxing. Where I just
all right, yeah, I'm down. I'm down for that. I have my ideas for rebox. No one does them, so we're gonna do it. But yeah, the unbox stuff definitely stepped it up. You'll see some cool new features that are happening on the unbox video coming up. That's going to be moving forward on the other ones. My final thoughts: stop charging $500 effing dollars for the NECA party wagon because I want it. I'm not paying $500. I already spent. Here's the thing we could talk about maybe in another one, but is like comics, and I spent a lot of money on Scotty Young comics in the past 3 weeks. It's not good. So,
all right, all. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.